All right, I've got a great show. I have some behind the scenes information on President Donald Trump, the deep state, the January 6th situation, and the Biden crime family. To help me with that, I have Garrett Ziegler from the Marco Polo Group. Garrett worked with former President Donald Trump as an aide to Peter Navarro. He's seen deep into the belly of the deep state. He's been forced to testify before the January 6th Select Committee, and he's been sued by Hunter Biden for having access to his laptop and for telling the world of the shameful and disgusting information found on it. Garrett, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor.
All right, you know information that my community would love to hear, so I'm really excited. When I heard that you were going to come on the show, I started doing all this preparation, and then I thought, wait a minute, this guy's prepared. He knows all the stuff. But the first thing I want to get your feedback on is Hunter Biden is subpoenaed to come before Congress and testify about his laptop, the lies, the 51 intelligence people, Antony Blinken, all of that. He doesn't show up. Congress finally comes together to decide whether to arrest him and hold him in contempt. He shows up with a team of mafia lawyers, and then they do absolutely nothing. So, why didn't Republicans arrest these guys? Because Democrats were more than happy to arrest your boss, Peter Navarro, humiliate him, make his life a living hell. So, what's going on with the Republicans and Hunter Biden?
It really is a bifurcation, isn't it? They put Peter in leg irons when he was boarding a flight to Nashville at DCA. Um, Hunter called their bluff. He went in there, not just with those lawyers, as you mentioned, which we have experience with because they're suing us, but also with a documentary crew. Hunter believes this is just a television show. They're producing a propaganda documentary about Hunter Biden. His sugar brother's doing this and financing it, Kevin Morris. And at the hearing was not only Kevin Morris. You saw Jason Cohn and other people involved with the documentary, Rob Bindler. So they're literally treating this as a semi-fictional joke. The answer to your question is, I think they were sort of all bark and little bite. They have a legal argument that says that Hunter wasn't technically in contempt yet, as you mentioned. It was just getting voted out of the committee. For him to be formally in contempt, the whole House would have to pass it, like they did, like you said, with Mr. Peter Navarro and Mr. Steve Bannon. Oh, and Eric Holder, the sitting AG who wasn't prosecuted for contempt of Congress for Fast and Furious and other things. It's a joke. What Hunter did was cowardly. He couldn't face Marjorie Taylor Greene, bringing up legitimate questions about money laundering and sex trafficking. She never showed pictures of his genitalia. That's what the key fake news talking point is, that somebody showed nudes of Hunter. It's never been the case. We've never showed a single piece of Hunter Biden's genitalia. We redact all genitalia. What they don't want to do is face the fact that Hunter committed Mann Act violations, and even the feds contemplated this. So there is a lot to unpack. This is a whirlwind. It's a circus on Hunter's part, and the master of that circus is not even Hunter. It's his attorney, Abby Lowell from Winston and Strawn. He is the ringmaster of this circus, and he thrives. His ego thrives, and he's at his best when he is creating these circus-like atmospheres in the Congress.
Yeah. I did notice that he walked out just before Marjorie Taylor Greene could uh,
Yeah,
discuss
and
that. Maybe after getting a tongue lashing from Representative Nancy Mace, calling him, no balls and doesn't have the respect or the courage to come before Congress, and yet there he was, like you say, mocking them to their faces, pretending that this is a movie, getting ready to make himself shine in the limelight. It's
yeah.
just so bizarre to watch.
Well, first things first, I forgot to mention this at the start. I want to assure your viewers that I'm not slovenly. I kept the facial hair because it's -5 degrees here in Illinois. So I want to make sure that your viewers know that I respect them, because I'm contrasting that with Kevin Morris, who looked like a dead man walking at the hearing. He couldn't even dress up for the Congress. So I want to make sure your viewers know that it's literally -5 here, and I'm keeping the beer till it gets till at least 30. Um, we were mentioned a couple times during that hearing. Anna Paulina Luna offered to give Jamie Raskin a copy of the physical report. We sent our dossier report on the Biden laptop to all of them via the e-reader in October of 22 when we released it. But when that came up, Comer uh, invited Raskin to take a look at our dossier. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene, right after Hunter walked out, she talked about a suspicious activity report that we had published on our website in January of 22. An insider at JP Morgan Chase gave us multiple suspicious activity reports. And MTG was reading that SAR aloud, and she put the transcript up on a board. So that is all from us. So we're very proud of the fact that we have been putting out factual information. And, when Marjorie Taylor Greene attempted to put that SAR up, that suspicious activity report up in Congress during that contempt hearing, Dan Goldman said, whoa, 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 the Democrat from New York, whoa, 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 whoa. We had an agreement with the Treasury Department that the SARs that we looked at about the Bidens were to be kept confidential. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene and Comer had to explain, no, 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 no. This is in the public domain. The SAR that we published in January of 2022, 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago. I think it was the 31st. But this entire thing with the Congress they've been dragged along by us and other outside groups to do the right thing because it is so blatant, Stephen. We've never had this much primary source material of rampant criminality.
I feel like I'm in a crime podcast or something, Um,
Those are my favorites.
yes, yeah, and speaking of your beard, I just want my audience to know I can't grow one. Um,
Well,
and it's cold.
well, my
It's cold here
my
too.
my wife was like, "Well, you're gonna shave, right?" It's like, "Well, it's freezing outside." So
Yeah,
when it gets back to above 32, I will shave. But it's really cold here in Illinois, and I'm sure it's cold there. So
yeah,
this thing has been going on. This saga, I should say, has been going on ever since we founded the group. Marco Polo is a C3. It was founded in July of 21 with the explicit primary purpose of going through this laptop and creating a comprehensive report on it. And that report has been free to read since we released it in October of 22. It's at bidenreport.com. It's a free e-reader, keyword searchable, because I understand and like our audience is full of nerds, and I'm sure good nerds, learned people like the founders were, and so they can go to bidenreport.com and read in real time fact check me throughout this interview about what I say about FARA violations and money laundering. We put the exact federal statutes they violated. So it's not enough, in my opinion, to just say, this person's a felon, this person committed crimes. You've got to have it so airtight that you could convince a jury. And even though I'm not an ASUA and I'm not an attorney, this stuff is so blatant. These FARA violations are so blatant, and the concomitant money laundering that emanated from the FARA violations, that almost any sentient American could convince a jury of their peers of this. It's that blatant. He was doing it through unencrypted emails. I saw a tweet the other day that said Hunter Biden's one of the worst criminals ever. Not in that he hasn't, he's not a mass murderer, but he's literally one of the dumbest criminals. Like, he put all of this stuff in emails. He recorded his crack binges. He paid hookers through Venmo. These are all stupid things. If he were sharp, if Abby Lowell, his attorney, committed Hunter's crimes, he would have paid the hookers in cash. He would have called people on the phone like the mafia dons did it in the 80s. But Hunter was dumb. And that just goes to show that if you want to run this sort of nonviolent political mafia, you've got to have a triple digit IQ. And Hunter didn't have that.
yeah. Well, he had to pay them through Venmo so that he could write it off on his taxes.
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
And that's
which
part of the indictment. That is not, that's part of the indictment. $10,000 payment to a sex club through wire transfer. He tried to, in the Biden world, sex club memberships are standard business expenses. Based upon the indictment, that's what we are to believe. And Jill herself said that they're going to bring decency back. They are bringing decency back in their own way. And all we do is chronicle it. Somebody asked me, "Are you a journalist?" I'm more of a chronicler. I just want to put stuff out that'll be read in 50 years. That's my only goal. If this report is true in 50 years, that's how we will have succeeded.
Yeah. Okay. Now, he is suing you
Yes.
for accessing this laptop. But wasn't it the big guy, excuse me, Joe Biden? Wasn't it him that lied to the American people during the debate, saying there was no laptop, that this was a made up Russian story? Later, he's told journalists that there is no laptop, it's a made up story. Hunter himself has said, "This isn't mine." He distanced himself. I don't know what you're talking about. This is Russia. 51 former intelligence advisors knowingly lied that this was Russian information. We know that Antony Blinken is at the head of a lot of this cover up, maybe not the crime, but the cover up, which is sometimes worse than the crime. So if this isn't his and this thing doesn't exist, how is he suing you?
The technical answer to that is Lowell is a sophist, just like in 4th century BC Greece. If you were a wealthy family, you would hire a sophist to teach your son fallacious but clever argumentation tricks. What Lowell is doing is saying that the data from the device wasn't abandoned, just the laptop, if they even concede that. So they're bifurcating between what's on the laptop and the physical device. We, through our response and motion to dismiss, concede that the original Biden laptop is with the FBI, and it has been since December 9th, 2019. Even uniparty members of the special counsel's team yesterday in a court filing confirmed that the laptop is real. It's with the FBI. We have a copy of a hard drive. And so what these I sort of that's my answer to your first question about how they can sue. The lawsuits are frivolous and vexatious and ridiculous. We're going to get them dismissed, hopefully with attorney's fees. But uh, they have nothing. They're really up against a corner here. If they concede that it's real, they have to make the conversation about how it came to us. We're protected through multiple statutes, publishers, everything else. I'm like the fourth person in the chain to get a copy of the hard drive. I'm protected by federal law, state law, and regulations. We're totally in the clear in an objective world. But Kevin Morris and all these people, including Abby Lowell, if they concede that maybe this hard drive is legitimate and all the data is legitimate, then they have to have a red herring and quick. And that is what these lawsuits are about. They are press releases masquerading, or they're lawsuits masquerading as press releases. Because this every minute that NBC is talking about how Garrett Ziegler got the device is 1 minute not spent on what's on the device.
Mm,
And
okay.
Margaret Wheeler, who goes by Empty Wheel, we call her Empty Brain in our group. She has a large Twitter following. She's obsessed with how the device got to Garrett Ziegler, and she's been covering our lawsuit, and more importantly, Bannon, who's their bigger boogeyman than me. But again, that is a classic red herring. They will not address what's on the device, and that is all our report is about. We go into the chain of custody about how I got a copy and all of these things. But the contents and the most important contents are the business related crimes because those go into Joe. This indictment out of Delaware with the gun is one of the few felonies that Hunter committed beyond the drugs that doesn't touch Joe. Joe is really happy about the Delaware indictment. They're getting more nervous about the California one, but the Delaware indictment, this is why I think the special counsel and the Wise team are a limited hangout because they're willing for Hunter to take a plea if it doesn't implicate Joe. Any time that Joe's name and more importantly his power of attorney, Mel Monzak, anytime those two are mentioned, that's when people start getting sweaty palms. If this story out there is of this prodigal son, this wayward black sheep degenerate son, that helps the Bidens. That helps Joe. Joe wants that to be the conversation. Once we start talking about far, and that's why we call ourselves Voldemort, because we're the group that shall not be named, because we focused almost exclusively on the business related crimes. I'm not being hubristic when I say that we are the authority on the business-related crimes on the device. We go into the Mexicans, the Ukrainians, the Kazakhstanis, the Romanians, the Chinese. We have full diagrams of all of these people. We have passport numbers, everything about them. We've done digital colonoscopies on everybody who's been into business with this family. We've had former people who've went to jail for Joe. For example, Chris Tagani. This is some insider stuff. Chris Tagani, surname is spelled Tigani. He is from Delaware. He went to prison on behalf of Joe. He was making straw donations. He was a wealthy beer distributor in Delaware. He went to prison for making straw donations for Joe and based on the 2008 presidential campaign. Tagani, confessed, realized he was being used like a paper rag, and has now been a great partner to us. And in fact, Tagani got sentenced by the very special counsel now investigating Hunter Biden. Tagani got like a year in the pen for financial crimes that had nothing to do with national security. And now Tagani, and what I'm trying to get across is Tagani's come to us, and he loves our work. Jill Biden's first husband is a friend of mine. He loves Marco Polo, Bill Stevenson. Jill cheated on Bill Stevenson with Joe, and he loves our work. So we're getting all the, when you've been in public life for 55 years like Joey has, you have a trail of tears. So many people you've screwed over that they realize they've been screwed, and now they see us, and we don't extrapolate it all. We just stick to the data on the device. This is, there's a lot of stuff about, Hunter being sexually inappropriate with his niece. We lay out the allegations of what he was accused of, but we're very fair. And that's why Hunter hasn't sued us for defamation, because we've never said anything that could get us into hot water legally. Hunter Biden committed FARA violations. That's a total fact. The reason why he's not saying that's defamation is because he knows we have him dead to rights. The only thing they're going, and I know this has been a monologue, but just 2 more seconds. The reason why the reason why the lawsuit is about the chain of custody is they're sophist. They're trying to get us on a technicality. They've never challenged our reporting. Anybody who's ever asked them for comment about our dossier, they do not comment on it. It is Voldemort. It is he who must not be named. Because there's no holes in it. We have $1,000 bounty for anybody who's listening right now. We have $1,000 bounty for any material correction based on the report. We've sent this bounty to everybody in the Biden orbit. Make $1,000. Find an error in this.
Wow. Wow.
And they won't do it. There's nothing. Because it's so conservative. The report is a conservative report. We only talk about that which it has 2 pieces of primary source evidence. If there's not 2 pieces of primary source evidence, it's not in the dossier. And the dossier chronicles 459 violations of state and federal laws. I mentioned Tagani. I mentioned Bill Stevenson. Another person that I know who had these are people with firsthand experiences with Joe and his family. Bill was married to Jill. Mike McCormick was Joey's stenographer for years. Rode on Air Force Two with him to China, to Ukraine. He was taking down every word this guy said. And he's one of our greatest friends now because he realizes this is all a con. So I'll send you a physical copy of the report so you can go through it. Great. Right there. Right there.
Oh, okay.
This is somebody who followed Joe around. So this, if I'm the devil's advocate and I'm saying, well, this guy worked for Trump, what does he know? There are people around Joe who know that this guy is a total con, total fraud. Go back to 88 when he was running for president. Hunter talks about this in his semi-fictional memoir. He was caught not just plagiarizing someone, but stealing their life story. It's one thing to commit a sin and say, hey, this guy wrote a great paragraph. I'm just going to lift it. It's another to adopt the life story of a British politician named Neil Kinnock. And that totally derailed his 1988 campaign. He's the living embodiment of failing upwards.
Wow.
And this guy has his hand on the nukes. It's sociologically, it is utterly fascinating. I think the only more corrupt man to ever hold the office of presidency is LBJ. And LBJ is Hunter and Joe Biden combined, which is really fascinating sociologically.
Yeah. Okay, so how long is the report that you guys? It looks pretty thick. It looks like
644 pages.
Ooh.
It took 13 months of straight drafting. It's all I did. was here in my home office. I took 13 months to write it. There's over 2,000 footnotes, 179,000 words. And what it is, very simply, is taking the contents of the device. So here on page 222 is two screenshots of text messages overlaid with that infamous picture of Joey golfing with Devin Archer on Long Island, saying, he had nothing to do with his son's business deals. And they were both on the board of Burisma at the time. It's absolutely insane. And then we have a court document here showing that that Devin Archer wanted to call Joey as a witness in his Indian bond fraud criminal trial in the SDNY. So this is all based on primary source material. There's no um, editorializing. If the Bidens committed a crime, we log it and we put the statute. If they don't, it's not in the report. There is some material on the device that is not in this dossier, and that's why we put out not just the report, but for free we put up and Mike McCormick loves the email site especially. Anybody who's listening to this can go to bidenlaptopemails.com for free and view, search, and download all 128,000 emails from the device for free. And then we put up this summer bidenlaptopmedia.com, which has all of the photos from the device, sans duplicates, and we redacted the genitalia, considerable genitalia, multiple members of the Biden family buck naked. This is in Jill's mind decency. So we'll never have this again of an American First Family in terms of the just total breakdown of any semblance of a well-run, cohesive unit. I mean, Stephen, we have arguments between the first son, who Joe himself has called the smartest man he knows from a pure intellectual capacity. That's my favorite dependent clause, from a pure intellectual capacity. I love that he added that. Arguing with his brother's widow, who was then screwing him, about a crack rock that was on a Hermes box, that luxury brand Hermes. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right because I don't know anything from it. They were arguing about a crack rock, about who put the crack rock on the box behind the picture of their dead brother. This is all laid out in the dossier. Interactions that you wouldn't see in a trailer park. And to me, as a right wing, I consider myself more than anything a right wing sociologist. The material is so rich. Like, whatever you think about how politicians are in private, your expectations will be surpassed by this. I mean, you have Joe texting Hunter about how he got his quote disease of addiction. I don't even agree that addiction is a disease. I do think it's a brain issue, no doubt about it. But this disease language is problematic to me. But anyways, Joe is texting Hunter that he got the disease from Mommy and me, and they call Mommy the woman who tragically died in 1972 with Hunter was in the car with his brother and they got badly injured, and their little sister tragically died as well. But so you got Joe saying that both me and your birth mother are addicts of some kind. This has been covered a couple times by the U.S. Sun. We can't get a bigger outlet to run with it. What does Joe mean by that? What kind of addict is Joe if Hunter got the disease from him and his? I mean, these are all questions that if it were anybody else would be explored with the fervor and the resources of a Woodward and Bernstein. Like, if this were DJT's son, the Washington Post would have 20 staff and about $10 million going through this device. Marco Polo is a dozen guys, and we wrote the report for $140,000.
Wow.
So and what were the costs? Very simple. We ran background reports from private investigators on every contact in the device. We did it methodically. That's sort of the back. If you want to, you mentioned at the beginning of the talk about some background. What we did was we treated it like a murder investigation. We took all the contacts, about 4,500 contacts in his abandoned hard drive. We ran private investigative reports on everybody. We found their LLCs and all their business relationships. And then we started making link analyses. And then after that was done, that took 3 months. After that was done, we went to the emails. I went through all 128,000 emails and then logged how many times each person was in the emails. And then we started going through the criminal activity and logging it. So it was very methodical. If somebody's listening in today and they've never heard about me, and it's a very good chance they haven't, because we're only known in certain sections of the country. We haven't reached broad appeal yet. And that's deliberate, totally deliberate. Joe wants it that way. And I've only been on Fox and Newsmax about a half a dozen times. Not if things go to plan, 2024, we're going to be, distributing thousands of these. We've already sent over 12,000 physical copies of the dossier. Over 7 million IP addresses have accessed it for free online. So that's about 2% of the country. We really need that to get up to 10 to 20%. So hopefully this year, a lot of people will go to the report online and start talking about what's on this device. It's nuts.
Yeah. Is Representative James Comer and those associated with him, are they going to use this with
Yeah,
their
they already have.
investigation?
They already have. When we released it in October of 22, I went on the Hill with a bunch of physical copies and just distributed dozens of them. So I'm more in touch with the staff. There's a couple of members I personally like and to speak with, but I'm more in touch with the staff, and we're constantly feeding them things. I wish they would do more, but we can't lobby. All I can do is put it on a silver platter for them and tell them who to subpoena for what. One project that we're working on is Joe has had a power of attorney since 1986, same one, almost 40 years, whose name is Mel Monzak. He was Joe's law partner going back to the early 70s. And he's the guy behind all the shell companies. He's the registered agent for most of their LLCs. He was in the Panama paper or the Pandora Papers. Uh, he was listed as the agent for a British Virgin Islands domiciled offshore firm. So the Burisma cash going to Joe, if there is some, it'll be in Mel's name. Because why? Because based on the power of attorney, it doesn't have to be in Joe's name. It can literally be in Mel's name. Mel has the authority to act on Joe's behalf and sign for him on any legal document. So we're really focused on Mel. Mel's law firm's website has been down since October of 2022. After our report was released, Stephen, they took down their law firm website. If you go to monlaw.com, there it says the site is under construction. The site has been under construction for 14 months. They're not
Wow.
going to bring it back online. That's how close to the bone we are. Like if you search the name Mel Monzak online, any search engine, almost all of that research will be ours. And there's only a couple of mentions of him before 2021 publicly, and this guy's the power of attorney for the sitting U.S. president. But the only reason why we found it out is because of the laptop. So all of these characters, this is a large operation. We're under no delusions. Joe is working about maybe 4 to 5 hours a day. We're under no delusions that he's calling all these shots. He's got people, right? I mean, the guy literally cannot find the exit on a stage that he just went to 10 minutes earlier. He's looking about where the exit is. He can't remember. It doesn't mean he's going to hell, although personally I think he is. I'm not saying meaning that it just is. Like take away all the commentary about somebody who can't find the exit to a stage. It is that he literally forgets where to go off the stage. As a result, we don't think that he is the one deciding all this. Joe is the perfect front man. And we heard Obama himself tell this to Stephen Colbert. His dream is to have a third term, to be in his sweats, in his basement, with an earpiece, with a front man. And he got it. And Joe is so power hungry, and he cares about the country so little that as an 81-year-old, he'll still get up knowing that his mental faculties have declined and do it because he loves the power and grandeur that much. In this laptop, Hunter admits on 2 different occasions to his then psychiatrist that he knows Joe has dementia. We were the first to break that. He told that to Keith Abloh. And so the family knows, but the decline has been more rapid than what I think they expected. So they've known, I think, ever since he got out of the vice presidency that things are deteriorating fast. But I think the stresses and the spotlight of the presidency have accelerated the Lewy body. And I think it'll be a slow decline. But remember, Jill is totally invested in this. You probably saw her interview with Mika the other day. It's Jill who's pushing him. Joe wants to be there too, but Jill is absolutely addicted to the first to the White House and the trappings of the first family. She's going to keep him in there. If she has to plug him in, doesn't matter. She's going to be there. So this is all fat. This is all not un. Some of it's unprecedented. Some of it's not unprecedented because of just how insane our country is. Part of the research that we did is figuring out all the affairs that Joe had throughout his life. We found out. We identified like 37 of the 46 American presidents have had affairs. So the sexual degeneracy is not unprecedented. What is the level of it and how many family members. We broke a story last month that the first daughter, Ashley Biden, has a multi-thousand-dollar tax lien since 2015. This whole family is a total wreck. I mean, she's a social worker. So if you're Joe and he says Ashley's the light of his life, apparently he took inappropriate showers with her, according to her, not my words, just hers. But if you're Joe and you make 400 grand a year, why don't you pay your social worker's daughter's taxes? She owes like $5,200. Just like write a check, man. Like what I'm trying to get across is the whole family's a mess. The whole fam. I can tell by your setup that you're a very organized guy and clean. I am as well. So it takes one to know one, right? That's not how they operate. The whole family is like a messy truck dashboard. Like there's drama, there's unpaid bills. It's a total wreck. Um, and we can go on many different tangents about that. I find it just utterly fascinating that he's the president. He can't run the family. The family, everybody's addicted to something. And people are behind on bills. There's drama. There's a child in Arkansas. It's all a mess.
Yeah. Well, maybe he doesn't want to offer to pay Ashley's tax bills because then he might feel obligated to pay Hunter's, which are allegedly $1.4 million.
Yeah.
But it's allegedly, even though that's his next big court case, I believe, out in California. So
Yes, we got the arraignment transcript. I'll have to put that up.
yeah. I told my wife in the summer of 2020, I was watching a speech by Joseph Robinette Biden, and I told my wife, this man has dementia. It's pretty obvious. Just the way that he tries to, explain things that he can't, that he said, well, just like these excuses. The love of ice cream is a very big indicator of people with Alzheimer's, believe it or not. Like I was just watching, thing after thing after thing, and I was like, wait a minute, this guy doesn't know anything. Then he hits the debate stage, and man, I was like, dude, they must have hit this guy with methamphetamine. I mean, he was alert
Yeah,
and
he had something.
they gave him something. He was sharp enough to know to lie to the American people about the laptop. So they can go back and search that. Okay, I'm loving this, but just because of time
Yeah.
constraints, I want to switch gears. So tell us what it was like to have to go before the January 6th committee, which literally had almost every Democrat that hates Donald J. Trump, and then the two most I hate Donald Trump Republicans that Nancy Pelosi could get onto the committee. What was that like? Because I covered that story, but I kept thinking, I wish I could be a fly on the wall and know what was really happening.
Well, the first thing I'll say is the press was vicious to me, totally vicious. I'm actually a soft guy, weirdly. Meaning if you search my name online, it'll just be awful. You'd think I'd hate women, blacks, everything. It's total fiction. But what happened was their committee was unduly constituted. The Republicans weren't approved by the conference. However, I didn't have the funds to fight that legally. My instinct was to do what Peter and Bannon did, but I didn't have the funds to do that. And so I gave them all the documents they sought, but I pled the fifth because the wording of the Fifth Amendment is very simple. You do not have to testify against yourself. So Abby Lowell in a deposition, because I was the witness for the mother of Hunter Biden's child in Arkansas back in May of 23, and Abby Lowell asked me in a deposition, so you were gonna, so if you didn't plead the Fifth Amendment, you would have said something that was self-incriminating, right? And I said, well, apparently you didn't get a very good education at Columbia Law because that is not what the Fifth Amendment says. The Fifth Amendment says that in any proceeding, you're not compelled to testify against yourself. So what I was trying to do with the J6 scam was very simple. I gave them all the documents they sought. I went in there, I appeared, paid for it, everything out of my own pocket, hired an attorney, $10,000 retainer, and I just went in there and pled the fifth. And I think that first of all, it's a joke. Adam Schiff was there. The worst human beings in America ran that committee. The worst people. So this is you know what I respected about the whole thing? I respected the law. I did not respect the individual people there. I did what I was legally required to do and nothing else. The January 6th scam committee is now and has been helping uh, Fanny in Atlanta. And we were the ones who broke the story that Fanny's lover, they're not even denying it. Of course, they're shacking up. Fanny's lover met with Joe's White House twice and billed the taxpayers of Fulton County $8,000 to meet with Joe's White House to talk about the indictments. So it does all fit. I mean, my experience with the J6 is vast. My boss got imprisoned for it. My friend Bannon got imprisoned for it. I had to, spend thousands of dollars just to get him off my back. I did nothing wrong. There was no talk of overturning the election. All we wanted to do was investigate voter fraud. That's it. It's so simple. I've never been in a conversation about seizing voting machines or having the martial law invoked. Totally nonsense. All fiction lies. All I was interested in was making sure that the votes were valid, right? Because I am concerned about the so-called audits that they do. They just count most of the time fraudulent votes, meaning if you have a fake ballot and you do an audit and all that audit is counting the fake ballot, you're still going to have the same number. I'm interested about the underlying legality of how you got the ballot in the first place.
Yeah.
So I get very worked up about the J6 stuff because I was so poorly treated by everyone about that. All my predictions about Cassidy Hutchinson and Alyssa Farah, who I both loathe deeply, have come true. I said that Alyssa Farah was going to join The View, and sure enough, within 6 weeks, she's on The View with Joy Reid and Joy Behar and these other wackos. Cassidy Hutchinson has changed her story so many. I don't even think she can keep it straight. Her errata list submitted by the lawyers was like 15 pages, and it changed material statements. Meaning, Cassidy Hutchinson, she wanted to work for Donald Trump. She did. Cassidy Hutchinson went down to Mar-a-Lago, thought the election was stolen, and then got basically bought off or thought that she could become famous through this. So once I'm fair to all. I don't have a particular prejudice towards anyone. If Adam Schiff came forward tomorrow and said, I apologize, I've been lying for all these years, I would forgive him. Same thing with Hunter Biden. That's not what they're doing, though. They're digging their heels in and they are telling the same lies over and over and over again. So as somebody who loves the truth, we can't accept that.
Yeah. Well, like they say, the cover up is sometimes worse than the crime.
Yes.
If people want to go get this report or follow you, what is the best way for them to do that, Garrett?
Thank you. And first of all, I hope I answered your question about the January 6th. I know I said a lot, but there's a lot of
Oh, I'm
brouhaha.
sure we could go hours on both
Well,
of these topics.
I'll make sure I answer your last question directly. The report is free to read. All you have to do is go to bidenreport.com, bidenreport.com. And on that e-reader, you can click a link to purchase it if you want a physical copy, which has been a huge hit, over 12,000 sold. If you want to go to our website and all of our social media, it's the same thing. Marco Polo 501c3, Marco Polo 501c3.org, and then we're on X, Gab, Telegram. It's all Marco Polo 501c3, denoting our nonprofit status. And again, it's me with two other board members and then independent contractors who are private investigators. We're essentially, our goal is to take the methods, skills, and resources of private investigative work and apply it to opposition research. Not for Republicans, but for the country as a whole. Because we're not really interested, the PIs that I work with, they're not interested in finding out whether somebody's wife's cheating on them. We want to take that doggedness and apply it to national issues. And right now, Joe is the king in a way. There's nobody more powerful than Joe. So we think there's no other issue to sink your teeth into more deeply.
One more question, then we'll
Yes.
go. I know we're up against the clock, but once Joe is no longer valuable or useful, I hate to say that. That sounds like, well, this is how the mafia thinks, right? This is how DC thinks.
Yeah.
What have you done for me lately? Once he is no longer useful, he loses the election, he loses his mind, he steps down. Is that when all of this is just going to roll forward like an avalanche and they'll start betraying him? Because right now they're all hiding and propping him up pretty heavily.
I think what makes Joe sleep at night, apart from just having to get, 10 hours because of his age, is that he has the pardon power. He doesn't care if he cares about his family foremost. So the fact that he can pardon Hunter on the way out is like key to him. So in that analogy, if he loses the election in 10 months, that lame duck session is going to be the greatest shuffleboard you've ever seen. Hunter's going to get pardoned. Everybody's going to get pardoned. And so by the time he leaves in January of 25, everything will be wiped. It'll be a blanket pardon for all past potential crimes, sort of like with Ford and Nixon. And that's why Hunter is breathing easy. What Hunter really fears and what we've been trying to do all along is a state level prosecutor filing charges for money laundering. That's the thing that they have no defense for because it's pretty commonly established that the president can't pardon state crimes. The federal, either way, the federal stuff will get pardoned. Even if it's not pardoned, it'll get commuted, which means that Hunter won't serve any time. So that's a very, very sobering outlook, but this is how it operates. Joe thinks like that.
But eventually the truth will come out and his entire reputation is going to be just absolutely slaughtered and tarnished, right?
Yes, I think that he'll be looked at like LBJ. I mean, LBJ had a name for his own genitalia and basically bedded the entire front office staff at the White House. That's just the social sins, not counting the Vietnam War. He will be looked at LBJ. He should hope to be looked at as Jimmy Carter. He should hope for a reputation of a hapless idiot like Jimmy Carter was. But he'll be looked at like LBJ. And that's what keeps me up. That's what drives me is the total truth. And that's why they're persecuting me because, these lawsuits have cost our group, Marco Polo, over $200,000 already. Nuts.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Garrett, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
I
your
will
time.
leave those links down below. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.